Facebook Live right now as we talk with the newly elected state representative from the 62nd District. He is Representative-elect Jim Struzzi with us this morning. And good morning. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Todd. Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
We have you on, of course, as the president of the Chamber of Commerce. And that's going to go on for a couple of more weeks.
A few more weeks we'll be able to do that.
As you prepare to transition out of that. Let's start there. What happens with the Chamber of Commerce now?
Well, it's my understanding that the position will be posted. Obviously, I'm going to stay on through the transition as much as I can to help out. We've got a big event coming up here in a few weeks. The Chamber's annual luncheon is on December 6th. Mm-hmm. So, I've been campaigning and running the Chamber at the same time, as well as, being a father and a family man and doing all those sorts of things. But, it's hard to carry all those balls, but we have to see it through. So, I'm going to make sure that everything goes well at the Chamber, make sure we have everything in place for the Chamber's annual luncheon. We have the Expo coming up in January as well. I've an incredible assistant in Jill Mountain. Jill does a great job for the Chamber, and we have a couple of interns that are helping out. And the Board of Directors are really stepping up to make sure that everything goes well. It's a real community chamber, and it really makes me proud of the things we've accomplished over the past 5 years to bring people together. We have a nice group of ambassadors that represent the chamber and help us at all of our events. And so it's really going to it's something that's very special to me, and it's going to continue in that vein, I think, because of the culture that we've created, the inclusiveness of the chamber.
Many of the aspects of that job as president of the Indiana County Chamber of Commerce translate to what you will now be doing as a state representative. I think of we've had conversations recently about urban, of course,
right,
and the Shell cracker plant happening in Beaver County, and the implications for this area from that. I would assume that work continues, just now from a different perspective.
Well, absolutely, Todd. Yeah, and I think that was one of the strengths that I had throughout the campaign was my experience at the Chamber, obviously my experience at PennDOT. Those all roll into being a great state representative, working with people, understanding the complexity of the issues, having those relationships in place across the state to make things happen. And I'm going to really capitalize on that. I was in Harrisburg yesterday already, building relationships with some of the other newly elected officials. And I think that's key. It's really building that coalition of support for the things that you want to get done. I've already had some discussions on some of the key issues that we want to deal with. That's elimination of property taxes, addressing the opioid crisis, continuing to create jobs and grow our economy. Those are some of the key things that we need to address, not just here in Indiana County, but across the state. And I think a lot of the other newly elected state representatives want to see those things through as well. So it's really, as you said, the benefits of being a chamber president, of being a community relations coordinator for PennDOT. All those relationships, all those skills that I have to build relationships come together perfectly as a state representative.
Well, of course, it's more than just learning your way around the Capitol hallways.
Yes, it is.
In order to be a state representative. It's also working with not only your newly elected and other first-timers such as you, but then working with the leadership of the State House and finding your role in there. Have you had any conversations with folks a little bit more experienced than you about how you're going to make all of this work?
Well, I think, again, that gets back to the relationships that I've built over the past 20 years or so, working for PennDOT in the Chamber. I know a lot of the leadership already in both the House and the Senate, and I think that's going to be key, those relationships. We were down there yesterday. There wasn't anything in session, so it was mostly the newly elected officials, but I know a lot of them have already reached out to me, and I'm going to rely on those relationships from the past, strengthen them for the future to get things done. I mean, that's simply how it works, and that's going to be key for us moving forward.
Mm-hmm. This is a big transition, not only in terms of the work that you'll be doing, but for your family as well. You mentioned you're a husband and a father, and now they're a part of this whole journey too, aren't they?
Well, they sure are, and they're all very excited. It's a new chapter in our lives, but they've been with us through the entire campaign. The kids have been supportive, albeit they were a little tired of it towards the end, I think. But that's to be expected. But they're excited. I know my wife's very excited. I couldn't do it without their support. They were out campaigning with us. Knocking on doors, putting out literature, attending all the different events. My wife, she worked so hard putting all the events together, the fundraisers, and she has to work too. She's a realtor and she has her own job and things that she needs to do, as well as getting the kids on the school bus every day and doing homework. And so, it's a big transition, but I think it's very exciting, and I'm eager to get in there and get right to work. And we're going to keep the staff that we have here. I'm going to keep Adrian and Shannon here in the Indiana office, as well as Jennifer down in the Blairsville office. Keep the office as it is so we can get in there on day one and get to work. And that's really what I'm I'm excited and prepared to do.
Yeah, well, it's going to be an interesting experience for you, I'm sure. You're going to have to spend a few more days away from home.
Yes.
And so there'll probably be a lot of Skyping going on there with the family.
Well, there
at
will
home.
be. There will be. You know, it's a transition.
Sure.
We'll make those adjustments. I mean, that's what service is. It's a bit of a sacrifice. But I understood that going in, and as I said, I have a great support system at home. You know, the kids, they matured through this entire process. I think they learned a lot. I'm sure they didn't know what getting petitions signed was or any of that stuff, and primaries and general elections. I mean, they've gained some incredible knowledge through this entire process, and we've gained some incredible friends. You know, you meet so many people on the campaign trail, knocking on doors into different events, and it's been very rewarding to see, you know, the quality of people that are out there who are willing to help when they believe in what you believe in to make a difference. And a lot of people stepped up, gave their time, gave their money, gave their energy to make this happen. So I have to thank everyone, you know, who supported me through the entire process. I want to thank everyone who voted for the entire process, and in particular in the general election, I have to thank Logan Delafiore for running a very good campaign. You know, we focused on the issues. I think him and I got along very well, and I have a lot of respect for that young man.
Sidling Hill will be a very familiar place to you, won't it?
I was there yesterday, getting that cup of coffee for the final stretch.
Everybody does. Everybody gets on Sidling Hill, and then off they go, and you're up 99 and on your way to 22, and here you come.
We'll get used to that, you know.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk some serious business in Harrisburg. You mentioned some of the things that are issues that you know need to be addressed. How do you approach them from a priority standpoint as you set up your first term in office?
Well, I know in working with the Republican Party throughout the election, a lot of the goals that I have are the same goals that the Republican Party has. The elimination of property taxes is at the top of the list. Improving the business climate, reducing the corporate net tax so that we can make Pennsylvania more open to businesses. That helps us grow our jobs. Obviously, the opioid crisis affects everyone, and that's a truly bipartisan issue. And I think you'll see widespread support on legislation that can help, provide better treatment for people who are suffering from addiction and provide more resources to get those dangerous drugs off the streets. I think those are some of the key issues that we have. Obviously, I'm going to be focused on transportation and infrastructure. And with my PennDOT background, I know from working at the chamber and all the different meetings I've had with the agricultural community, they need a lot of support and help right now. I think those are some key issues that we have to deal with as far as providing them the resources, making sure that all the agencies that support agriculture have adequate funding. Those are some of the key things that I think we need to address. But I also think those are key things that a lot of people in Harrisburg want to address as well. So I think you'll see a lot of support. I really want to work hard for everyone. I'm not going to be too partisan in my support. If it's a good bill that helps Indiana County, then I want to see it move forward. I think that there are things out there that we can do to help everyone. No matter how you voted in the election, whether you're a D or R or other, there are things that everyone needs. And I think that's, why people believed in me, because I know I'm going to work hard for everyone in the 62nd District, everyone in Indiana County, and everyone in Pennsylvania.
Well, we talk about reaching across the aisle, but there are differences philosophically.
Yes.
For instance, on severance taxes.
Right.
The governor and many others in Harrisburg believe that we need a severance tax in Pennsylvania. Of course, we have a different system in place right now for the impact taxes. And so you're going to come up against some folks who are opposed to you just in terms of philosophy and therefore in terms of legislative initiatives.
Well, that's going to be a challenge. You're going to have those different views depending on where you are geographically. I'm going to be adamantly opposed to the severance tax, as I said from the beginning, because I think it's going to hurt an industry that's already struggling here. And we've seen it more locally than other areas, with some of our major energy companies downsizing or even leaving altogether. We want to bring them back. The industry is starting to come back slowly. Commodity prices are increasing. We're starting to see some of the pipelines that have been under construction coming online. You mentioned the cracker plant. I think that's going to increase the demand for natural gas, and we have it here. Right here in Indiana County. The opposition comes from the more urban areas. They don't see that. They don't see the need for that here. And I think when you talk about a severance tax while you already have an impact fee, that's a double tax, more or less. And the impact fee has already generated $1.5 billion, I think, in the 5 or 6 years that it's been in place. So I don't think we need a severance tax. tax. I think it's going to hurt the industry. It'll push it further out. I think the last thing we need right now are more taxes on businesses. We want to try to get businesses to grow. And I think you saw that with the federal tax changes that occurred, President Trump's changes. We saw our local manufacturers boom. They're booming right now. They can't find enough employees. Their orders are like they've not seen in recent years. So I think we need to continue those trends to make Pennsylvania more favorable to business through reduced over-regulation on the energy industry. With a balance, obviously we want to make sure that we're protecting the environment. I mean, that we have great natural resources here in Indiana County, but we also don't want to see jobs lost.
All right. We're talking with Jim Struzzi, newly elected to the State House of Representatives. I don't know if you know the answer to this yet or not, but is there some sort of hierarchy in place when you're seeking committee assignments as a first-term lawmaker? There are committees that are considered to be much more influential than others. Do the newcomers have to get to the smaller committees before they get to step up to the big boy chair?
I'm not 100% sure yet, Todd. I think we have our orientation next week, so they'll probably cover all that with us. But my understanding is you put down what you would like to see, your top 5 choices, and I think the senior leadership decides who goes where based on your areas of expertise. So, obviously I'm going to be skilled in transportation. I've worked a lot with education and workforce here, to try and meet our job needs through the chamber for our members and for the business community. So I think education would be a good one for me to be on. Obviously, I'd like to see more support for agriculture. So those are some of the key ones that I would want to apply for, as well as commerce and industry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have a guy in Dave Reed who can certainly offer you some advice and some experience. You got to draw on that sort of resource, don't you?
I cannot thank Dave enough for his support through the general election. He was there with us on Tuesday night. He was the first one to tell me that we had actually won the election. I did not know at that point because we were looking at the website and it hadn't updated as fast as the information at the courthouse. So Dave was the first one to break the news to me. So that was very exciting. But he has been so supportive, him and his wife Heather, through the entire process. And it's hard for the wives. For my wife, she was talking to Heather, Dave's wife, a lot. How do we handle this? How do we get through this? And I think that support system is just great, and we're going to continue to rely on them as both friends and mentors.
Terrific. Have you kept writing through all of this? Because you're a writer and author as well.
I have not, Todd. I have not. I don't foresee the opportunity to write for a few years now. But I'm never going to stop writing because that's a passion of mine. I've that Christmas book and both books set in Indiana County, and I've always got ideas up in the top of my head. So maybe on some of those back and forths to Harrisburg, I'll feel some creative energy flowing.
There you go. Thank you so much for coming in to visit with us today, and congratulations.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
He is State Representative-elect Jim Struzzi. Talking right up to the marker here this morning on Indiana in the Morning.